Working in Sweden is awesome. Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you, and in this one I'm going to talk about why I love working in Sweden so much. I've had the ability to be in the United States and work, and now I'm in Sweden, and there's a lot of times I contemplate, would I move back to the United States? And I'm not 110% sure because there's so many benefits I get here in Sweden, and my life just feels generally better in that sense. So, right off the bat, working in Sweden is so much less stressful. When I think of working in the States, for example, I was always felt like under pressure, never felt like I could have an off day, and that I was constantly being judged on my performance. And what that does is it just super stresses you out, and you end up pushing yourself so hard. So for example, if I was getting sick in the US, I would just keep pushing through as long as I would only call off work if I had like a massive fever, if I was throwing up. And one of the biggest things that took me time in Sweden was actually staying home when I'm sick. Now, of course, now in the world, everybody stays home when they're sick, and as soon as you have any symptoms. But beforehand, it was tough for me to do in Sweden because I was worried about missing work. I was worried about what people would think of me. All of this because that's kind of how I felt in the US. That I didn't want to have too much time off of work. I didn't want to miss the work that I needed to do. But if you think about it, if you're sick, you need to recover. You need to stay home. And in some cases, when I pushed myself much more harder, all I ended up doing was getting myself more sick overall. So that's like right off the bat. Number two, there really isn't like a hierarchy system in Sweden in the same way. There's not like, yes, you have a boss and things, but it's not like the boss is all the way up here and everybody else is all the way down here. And sometimes I feel that way in the US. And the negative part of that is maybe you're less likely to say something critical that you think, or maybe you're less likely to bring something up to the boss because there's this big hierarchy. So maybe the boss wants to do something and you don't think it's a good idea, or you see a mistake. You're so afraid of doing that you just don't say anything. And sometimes that can make, the situation worse. I mean, I think of what happened in Chernobyl. If you've ever seen that documentary, basically people were afraid to talk to the leader of the Soviet Union. And so the situation got worse. And I think having that less hierarchy system and the more equal to talk to others really helps with workflow. It really, really does. It doesn't mean that the boss is necessarily going to agree with you or other people are going to agree with you, but it makes the situation much better. Speaking of less stressful, I love that in Sweden you have a Fika. And the thing about Fika is you sit down, you have coffee, you have sweets, and I would say most workplaces maybe have at least a Fika once a week where you have food, cheese, candy, sweets, and you sit down and talk to one another. I always personally find that when I drink coffee and talk to everybody, it usually is really beneficial to actually take a break from the work I'm doing, because sometimes you got to get it out of your head and then get it, and then you have a fresh new perspective to go back to the work that you need to do. And I actually find in a lot of cases, if I take a Fika around 3 o'clock or something, that's usually when I start to get tired. And actually talking to my colleagues about something maybe non-work related actually kind of refreshes me and recharges me. And then I'm able to go back to work, fresh new perspective, and I feel like I get more done in a sense. That's the main thing, is that I try to think did I work harder in the United States than I did in Sweden? Yes. However, do I necessarily did I get more work done in the United States than I did in Sweden? I might have, but I'm not sure the quality of work was the same or the best. And going off of that, just the fact that you get 5 weeks off paid vacation instead of 2 weeks, which you would get in the States, some cases 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, taking that time off from work, shutting down from what you need to do, again, it takes the stress off of you. And I actually feel like you're more likely to work if you find a place you really enjoy, you're more likely to work there longer, more long term, because you're less stressed. And if you think about it, I always say this, it's better for your health to not be so stressed. And that means that you're probably honestly could work longer even if you wanted to, or stay at a company longer because you're just happy with all the perks you get. Not to mention, if your kids are sick, you can stay home and take care of your kids. And I just think that that's so fantastic as well. So the main thing is that everybody understands, hey, life happens in Sweden, and job should not stop you from living your life. Your life should always be first, and work should always come second. And if something's going on in your life, you need to take care of your life first, and then you deal with the work. And that doesn't mean, again, that anyone in Sweden is lazy. It doesn't mean that people just don't want to work. It just means everybody understands life happens. It is such a big stress reliever. The last point I want to make, and maybe this is like a personal opinion to me, but I just really like Swedish people and the way they see things and go about things. And what I mean by this is I find Swedish people to be like really open to ideas, and I also like that they're willing to give you criticism on those ideas. I mean, it happens in the States too, but I find people to be more open, and they just have a general like funny view on life. And I like a lot of Swedish humor. There's a Swedish sense of humor to it. I don't know. I guess I feel like Swedish people are more open, less offended about things, and it just creates a fresh work environment. So all these perks, not even to mention that I didn't say that, like, also you get time off of work for like up to a year if you have a kid, and you don't have to worry about losing your job. Can you imagine? All of that is so awesome. And I really think that that kind of workflow and the way you work here in Sweden is probably one of the reasons the life expectancy is high in Sweden. Because if you're stressed all the time, I mean, that has to really impact your health. So I don't know, if you have the option someday to travel abroad or get a chance to work in Sweden, I would jump on the opportunity just for the experience and the life. And especially if you have a family, I think that that's where the perks really start to pay off here in Sweden. Okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please write anything I missed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hej då!